All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome to our third annual Good Omens Holiday Party. I hope everyone's already having a good time. We have a lot of fun stuff planned today. Should we go ahead and start with our first carol?
On the first day of Christmas, good omens gave to me. This kiss lives in my mind rent-free. On the second day of Christmas, good omens gave to me. Two yellow eyes, and this kiss lives in my mind rent-free. On the third day of Christmas, good omens gave to me. Three cowrie shells, two yellow eyes, and this kiss lives in my mind rent-free. On the fourth day of Christmas, good omens gave to me. Four Eccles cakes, three cowrie shells, two yellow eyes, and this kiss lives in my mind rent-free. On the fifth day of Christmas, good omens gave to me an obsession with nightingales. Four Eccles cakes, three cowrie shells, two yellow eyes, and this kiss lives in my mind rent-free. On the sixth day of Christmas, good omens gave to me 6 shots of espresso, an obsession with nightingales. Four Eccles cakes, three cowrie shells, two yellow eyes, and this kiss lives in my mind rent-free. On the seventh day of Christmas, good omens gave to me an apology dance scored 7, 6 shots of espresso, an obsession with nightingales. Four Eccles cakes, three cowrie shells, two yellow eyes, and this kiss lives in my mind rent-free. On the 8th day of Christmas, good omens gave to me 8 ox ribs, an apology dance scored 7, 6 shots of espresso, an obsession with nightingales. Four Eccles cakes, three cowrie shells, two yellow eyes, and this kiss lives in my mind rent-free. On the 9th day of Christmas, good omens gave to me 9 best of Queen songs, 8 ox ribs, an apology dance scored 7, 6 shots of espresso, an obsession with nightingales. Four Eccles cakes, three cowrie shells, two yellow eyes, and this kiss lives in my mind rent-free. On the 10th day of Christmas, good omens gave to me 10 merchants dancing, 9 best of Queen songs, 8 ox ribs, an apology dance for 7, 6 shots of espresso, an obsession with nightingales. Four Eccles cakes, three cowrie shells, two yellow eyes, and this kiss lives in my mind rent-free. On the 11th day of Christmas, good omens gave to me 11 avocados, 10 merchants dancing, 9 best of Queen songs, 8 ox ribs, an apology dance scored 7, 6 shots of espresso, an obsession with nightingales. Four Eccles cakes, three cowrie shells, two yellow eyes, and this kiss lives in my mind rent-free. On the 12th day of Christmas, good omens gave to me 12 travel sweets, 11 avocados, 10 merchants dancing, 9 best of Queen songs, 8 ox ribs, an apology dance scored 7, 6 shots of espresso, an obsession with nightingales. Four Eccles cakes, three cowrie shells, two yellow eyes, and this kiss lives in my mind rent-free.
Hoo-ha.
Okay.
Okay, so that was the 12 Days of Good Omens, which we recorded for our very first holiday party, which was only about a month after the server opened, which was kind of crazy. I think we did it like December 9th, and the first official day the server was open was November 1st. So I don't know how we did the first year was crazy. Thank you, everybody who was a part of starting all this, because it's been quite a fun ride. Let's see. So we've got 2 parts for this program. The first half of the party, we are doing 2 short fanfic readings, and then we're going to do a picture book, of art and cosplay. And then in the second half of the party, we're going to do a longer fanfic reading. And of course, throughout the entire party, we're sprinkling in carols. We have a few new ones this year that are pretty amazing, but we're going to play the old favorites too, that we keep building our catalog of these. On stage up here with me, I have myself. Next, actually, I don't know what order this goes in, but we have Odeyan over there. And then we have Kat Stein Books, I think, right next to me. And then there's Kama Puri, and of course, Madman D, and Laura S. Everyone looking all festive.
Hello.
Hi, Comic Geekery. There she is.
We are.
They, by the way.
They. Thank you. There they are.
Yes, we're ready for the next carol.
All righty. So I'm going to leave that up to Laura. Take it away, Laura.
Aziraphale, how lovely is your tartan. Aziraphale, how lovely is your tartan. The subtle stripes in your bow ties bring out the colors in your eyes. Aziraphale, how lovely is your tartan. Aziraphale, how cozy is your waistcoat. Aziraphale, how cozy is your waistcoat. The golden warm, it holds you tight, a velvet comfort day and night. Aziraphale, how cozy is your waistcoat. Aziraphale, how dapper is your jacket. Aziraphale, how dapper is your jacket. A demon's breath will grant relief from stains that linger under. Aziraphale, how dapper is your jacket. Aziraphale, how tailored are your trousers. Aziraphale, how tailored are your trousers. Their perfect fit doth emphasize the luscious curving of your thighs. Aziraphale, how tailored are your trousers.
Okay, technically it's Cam's turn to speak, but really quick, because I forgot to, while we're doing the credits here, I forgot to say this was to the tune of "Oh Christmas Tree," and it was written by Kat Stein Books, who writes hilarious and fun lyrics, and Madman did the video, and the close-up on Aziraphale's bum never fails to make me laugh. So, various of the Chorusmen of the Apocalypse singing. So thank you, everybody who participated in that. And I will shut up now and turn it over to Kama Puri.
And Zandaria did the video editing, which she didn't give herself credit for. Or not the video, sorry, the sound editing. I said that wrong. And the singers on that one were Kat Stein Books, me, Emily, Madman D, Zandaria, and Ciliana. So thank you all to the singers. All right, now let's have a fanfic reading. So this is What Could Have Been by Odeyan, read by Odeyan.
Yes, thank you very much, Kama. And of course, thank you very much to Sen and Kama and everyone who organized this lovely party again. And yeah, I will read to you now a fan fiction that I wrote quite some time ago, right after season 2 came out. And it's a very fluffy what could have been about what happened if the demons hadn't interrupted the ball. After making sure that Nina had successfully entered the bookshop, Crowley sauntered over to the record shop just as Maggie was leaving, locking the door behind her. The night air was clear and the moon shone down warmly on the familiar Soho corner. "Don't worry," Maggie said, noticing him. "I'm already on my way. I wouldn't miss it." Crowley just nodded. He wasn't really in the moment. His mind was still pondering the events of the day. How Jim, had been willing to jump out the window. Had he really changed? Was Aziraphale right in protecting him from heaven and hell? But these thoughts were only a distraction from his real questions. Was his love for Aziraphale really that obvious? It wasn't like he'd never thought of the angel in a romantic way. No, the butterflies, the warm, fuzzy feelings, the urge to kiss him had been there for decades, and he was on this planet long enough to know what they meant. But he had elected to ignore it. Hell, Aziraphale barely acknowledged their friendship. How could he expect anything more? But Nina had taken one look at them and concluded they must be partners, and suddenly he had realized that times had changed. No longer were they bound by their respective sides. No longer did they have to pretend to hate each other. No longer did they have to hide. And they hadn't. Nina was right. They were having, for all intents and purposes, a relationship. And Aziraphale had acknowledged it. Hadn't he talked about how the Bentley was their car? How the bookshop was their bookshop? He'd been so protective of his beloved car that the meaning behind it hadn't registered until now. 5 decades ago, Aziraphale had said Crowley were going too fast for him. But now, wasn't he the one pushing forward? Maybe, just maybe. Crowley followed Maggio into the bookshop, and his thoughts were pushed aside by what he saw. He just stared in a mixture of amazement and pure exasperation. Wow, Aziraphale took this ball thing way too seriously. Chandeliers, candles, though all electric, red curtains, and Jim in a sparkly suit. Soft music was playing from 4 musicians, led by the Doctor Who fan Aziraphale had given a book to. The whole street had come, and everyone was wearing elegant clothes fit for an old-fashioned ball. Crowley's eyes, however, were immediately searching for the angel. Aziraphale was standing in a corner, a tablet with little snacks in hands, and the most adorable expression of pure joy on his face. Crowley could feel his annoyance fade. If he was having that much fun, how could he scold him about all the miracles happening around them, like the outfits and everyone suddenly knowing how to dance like people used to hundreds of years ago? Well, he would scold him anyway. He made his way through the crowd, quickly checking on Maggie and Nina. They were dancing and seemed to be having a heartfelt conversation. At least Aziraphale's stupid idea seemed to work, and the sooner these two fell in love, the sooner Heaven's suspicions would be erased, and they could go back to their peaceful lives. Well, there was still Jim, but they would find a solution eventually. "Ah, there you are," said Aziraphale when Crowley came up to him. His smile was giddy and excited. It was baffling to Crowley how he could still manage such genuine and innocent excitement. He adored it. "Aren't there a few too many miracles, Angel?" he asked instead of a greeting. "Oh, you are no fun. These are small miracles. Heaven won't notice. But I'm pretty sure these humans will." Nina looked very suspicious right now. "Ah, you know how humans are." Aziraphale wiggled his hand in front of Crowley's face. "They will shrug it off, but they will remember this as the best meeting of the Wigba Street Traders and Shopkeepers Association they ever had, and ask you to host it each year from now on." The smile on the angel's face faltered a little. "Ah." Crowley changed topic. "What the heaven is Jim wearing?" Immediately the smile was back. "Oh, I let him choose." "From where?" Don't be mad. I miracled a whole collection." Why didn't you just leave him upstairs? And have him miss all the fun? That didn't seem fair." Crowley shook his head. "I'll check on our couple." He turned to leave, but Aziraphale caught his sleeve. "Wait." Crowley turned back around, eyebrows raised. The angel looked nervous, his chest visibly rising and falling. "First, we have to dance." Crowley was taken aback. "You don't dance." Angels didn't dance. Crowley had always considered it one of the key differences between angels and demons. However, this specific angel. Before he could think any further or say anything else, Aziraphale had taken his hand and with a giggle pulled him out onto the light of the chandelier. He let go of him in line with the other dancers, and caught by surprise as he was, Crowley allowed himself to miraculously know the steps. Aziraphale was beaming at him as he gave a little bow, then fell into step. Crowley's thoughts were racing. They were dancing, and he couldn't help but see it in the light of his conversation with Nina. He raised his hand to touch his angels, and they spun around each other. Aziraphale's hand was warm and soft, unlike his lanky fingers that were always cold. "I didn't know you danced," he admitted. "Oh, I don't usually. I learned the gavotte in 1886, though, and I admit I enjoyed it. I haven't learned to dance or danced at all since it unfortunately went out of fashion. I invented this dance specifically for this ball. Do you like it? Not really. It was a stiff, formal dance, quite unlike the wild and free dancing he every now and then partook in. But he was dancing with Aziraphale. Again, Crowley's hand touched his as they spun around. He managed to say, a little old-fashioned. Aziraphale pouted. This is Jane Austen. It has to fit with the spirit. They parted, rounding the other dancers and joining again at the end of the row. Their hands touched and they spun, the chandelier's flickering lights illuminating the angel's light hair like a halo. Oh yes, Crowley enjoyed himself. His sunglass-shielded eyes met Aziraphale's blue-green ones, and, like every so often, it felt like the unconditional love in those eyes was for him, and him alone. You can show me a more modern dance if you like, Aziraphale offered. Nah, I don't think you'd like it. They danced in silence for a moment. He didn't notice the other hands he touched. They spun again, golden lights flickering, and he forgot about Gabriel. He forgot about Maggie and Nina. He forgot about Muriel standing outside with their notepad. He forgot that they were in Aziraphale's bookshop, holding a meeting of the Wigber Street Traders and Shopkeepers Association. Crowley, what did you do? Aziraphale asked suddenly. Crowley snapped out of his reverie. What? Another spin. He didn't want to let go of his angel's hand. Well, Aziraphale raised his eyebrows and looked around pointedly. What did you do? Crowley's eyes stayed on the angel. I didn't do anything. Are you sure? Aziraphale looked around even more pointedly, so Crowley tore his eyes away from the familiar face. And he realized what the angel was talking about. Ah! The bookshop had disappeared, and so had the other people. He and Aziraphale were dancing alone in a void, glistening in the same warm red and golden tones the shop had. The music seemed to be coming from everywhere. It was quite angelic. Nah, can't have been me. This has way too much glitter. They continued to spin, but the dance had changed. It felt weird to dance with people who weren't there anymore, so they instinctively just kept spinning around each other, once left, once right. Well, it certainly wasn't me, Aziraphale mused. This is above my abilities, I'm afraid. Do you think the archangels are here? Alarmed stopped. His hand slid past Crowley's as he also skittered to a halt, so Crowley grabbed it. Immediately the room around them seemed to solidify again, chandeliers and bookshelves taking form. No! With one step, Crowley closed the distance between them, put his other hand on Aziraphale's waist, and using this two-point leverage, forced him into another spin. The room around them dissolved like wine trickling down glass. I think it was a joint thing from both of us. I don't feel any other angels or demons here. Just you. The look on Aziraphale's face made Crowley more than a little uneasy. He looked confused, flustered, but his eyes were also shining with love, and this time he was sure, he knew, it was only for him. Crowley, Aziraphale started, but he shook his head. Not now. So the angel said nothing, and they kept spinning, fingers entwined, Crowley's hand on Aziraphale's waist. Slowly the angel rested his other hand on Crowley's arm. And suddenly the thought occurred to Crowley that he could kiss him. Right now, right here, wherever here was, where nobody could see them. He wished he weren't wearing his sunglasses. But he didn't want to ruin this moment, not with removing his glasses, not with an attempt of any kind. So they danced a while longer in the red and golden nowhere until slowly the room returned. When the other people came into focus, Crowley let go of Aziraphale, took a step back, and found himself back in line with the other dancers, opposite to the angel, right as everyone bowed and the music stopped. Taking a deep breath, Crowley looked around. He wasn't surprised to see that miraculously nobody had noticed a thing. Probably no time had passed at all. But for Crowley, it had been an eternity. Thank you very much for listening. I'll give it back to Sandaria and Kemma.
That was really awesome. Thank you for reading that.
Hi, I'm taking over for a bit. I'll be introducing some songs. We're going to start out here now with Crowley the Demon, which is to the tune of Frosty the Snowman. This one, the lyrics were written by Madman D, and the singers are Kama Puri, Joe Madge, Madman D, and Sandaria. Enjoy!
Crowley the demon was an angel long ago, with a pair of wings and a halo too, so much joy he'd often show. Crowley the demon now has lots of angst and pain. He's cared so much it became a crutch, and his joy began to wane. There must have been some laudanum in that big tall glass he drank, for when he placed it to his lips he grew tall, but first he shrank. Crowley the demon has such a tortured soul, with a heart of gold and a spirit bold, he just can't escape his role. Thumpity thump thump, thumpity thump thump, look at those two go. Thumpity thump thump, thumpity thump thump, no one has to know. Aziraphale the angel was as good as he could be. He's collected books and thwarted crooks and enjoys a cup or tea. Aziraphale the angel knew that God was wrong that day. Said the kids are new, I promise you, and he felt he'd gone astray. By the sea they sat all day discussing what went down. Aziraphale was scared as hell. Crowley told him, don't you frown. Crowley the demon tried to tell Aziraphale. He said, don't you fret, you sure can bet that isn't how I fell. Thumpity thump thump, thumpity thump thump, look at those two go. Thumpity thump thump, thumpity thump thump, no one has to know.
An old classic from the first year that we were making carols. Oh, those are always fun. All right, I am going to share some art with you next. So let me get that fired up here. There we go. All right, and hopefully you can see that. Yeah, it looks like it should be sharing. Great. So we have for you a picture book this year. We thought we would do that instead of doing a competition. So we have some new art and we also have some nostalgia art. And we're going to start out with the submissions that we received this year. I think some of these submissions are also nostalgia. They're from past years. And some of them are brand new. So our first piece of art is from QTJ. And this is from, I think this was from the Advent calendar last year. I think she originally made this piece for our Advent calendar. So we have the lovely Bentley, all in yellow. Santa hat decked out. Very fun. Our next piece is a new piece this year, made by Joe, Blossoming Nova, called We're a Couple of Misfits. It features Muriel, Eric, and Muriel's cat, and his name is Cupperty. And they are dressed as Rudolph, Clarice, and Hermie from Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. And it's just so cute. I love the little group of them, and they just look so cozy, and everybody looks so happy in that picture. I hope that Muriel and Eric get some happiness like that in their lives. Our next picture is a cosplay from Light and Dark Cosplay, Light on the server. And I'm not sure if this is a new one or if this one has been around for a little bit, but I love all the little details, the hat on the counter and the cake here looks so yummy. We have another song later about Aziraphale loving treats, and we actually have, there's some baking theme to our story in the second half of the party, so I thought this was a very appropriate picture for this party. The next one is, I think, also a new image from Blue Pigeon, The Ineffable Wives, Christmas Cheer and Humbug. It's very cute with the little candles. Very lovely. By the way, I cannot see the chat while I'm sharing this, so if you're saying things to me in the chat, I am sorry that I can't see it. I will see it afterwards, and I am assuming one of the other people on stage will unmute and tell me if there's something I need to know happening in chat. This next one is going to autoplay a video, so I'm not going to talk, and you're just going to get a little video audio played right when I switch.
Fell the Marvelous, a.k.a. Aziraphale. Aziraphapap, Azifafal Aula.
Aziraphale.
So that is Duo Monkey's very cute service dog, Aziraphale, and also their, I guess their current service dog, Thor, and then their service dog in training, Aziraphale. And also over on the left here, we have Aziraphale, the dog, and Duo Monkey in cosplay. So those are our new submissions this year, and then we decided to do a little nostalgia to previous years. So I also included our 2024 submissions. We have another work by Joe, Blossoming Nova, Eric and Muriel Gift Giving. So I don't know if this was maybe the day before the cat scene or the day after the cat scene, but it feels like it's very much in the same vein as the cat scene. Just so cozy, so sweet. We have Christmas Market Fun Time by Evie. And I realize I did not put the, what's the word for it? Medium was for this, but I think this one was maybe watercolor or gouache. We have A Place of Warmth by Lonely Eyes. We've got the little Aziraphale mug and the taller Crowley mug. It's very cute. We have Scarf Sharing by Miniature Gremlin. We have Is This What I Think It Is by Orico, and we've got Crowley holding a needle from the pine tree that has fallen on the floor. So I guess he threatens his Christmas trees just as much as he threatens his houseplants. That would make sense. We've got The Reason for the Season in Hell by Bugger All This Bible 1651. And it says, relax, 'tis the season to be jolly, somewhere, anywhere, or somewhere anyway, rather. We've got Hoster Ligger with Eric in a box. Goodness, this Eric doesn't look quite as happy as the Eric that gets to celebrate Christmas with Muriel. That's a fun picture. And we have An Angel for the Tree by Mary. A very cute little Aziraphale. Space Skating by Misty Creations. I feel like if they had just regular shoes on their feet instead of ice skates, that would almost be an illustration for the story we just heard from O'Dane. And we have Wintry Kiss by Carnival of Vanity. I think this is the last one. Always so much detail in Carney's pictures. Oh, no, I was wrong. We have To the World at Christmas by Brigitte P. I was thinking this was a 2023 one. Lovely. I think you're here, Brigitte, so you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Brigitte is doing an advent calendar over on her YouTube channel. So I should link us to that. If so, we should make sure we have access to that. And that's all for now. I will come back for a little more.
Those were all so awesome. So on to more carols. Our choir, the Horsemen of the Apocalypse, has been really busy this year. We produced 5 new songs as a group. And so this is going to be another one of the new ones. And it's so appropriate that we got to see Eric pictures in that, because this is called We Three Erics, to the tune of We Three Kings. This one was written by me and edited by Cindaria. Eric 1 is sung and performed by Bad Man D. Eric 2, sung and performed by Silviana. Eric 3 was sung by me and performed by Cindaria. Happy listening.
We three Erics share a sad fate. Every day we discorporate. Junior demons hear us screaming, trapped in a job we hate. Oh, killed by Haster, killed by Shax, fed to hellhounds for their snacks. Always trying, always dying, we just wish we could relax. I was sent to Megado's plane, told a joke was met with disdain. Avocado, not bravado, yet I was simply slain. Haster, killed by shacks, fed to hellhounds for their snacks. Always trying, always dying, we just wish we could relax. Dispatched to a legion of fear, knew there weren't 6,000 guys here. Why'd you smite me? I was right, they just wanted to be clear. Oh, killed by Haster, killed by shacks, fed to hellhounds for their snacks. Always trying, always dying, we just wish we could relax.
Angel halo lay on the floor. Hadn't seen one up close before. One small tap and it went zap, and my body is no more.
Oh, killed by Haster, killed by shacks, fed to hellhounds for their snacks. Always trying, always dying, we just wish we could relax.
I agree, Joe. I hope that next year we'll have a happy song for Eric. That would be nice. He deserves it. All right, next we have another fanfic. This is an excerpt from Merry Christmas to the World by Natalie, read by Madman. I'm sorry, Madman D. I always forget the D.
The D's optional, you know, it's fine. Hi, everybody. I'm glad to be here. Today I have the pleasure of reading this excerpt from Merry Christmas to the World by Natalie. It's a lovely little bit, so I hope you all enjoy. All right. The street in Soho, where an angel had a bookshop and a demon had a car, was sprouting odd places for pine branches. They lined door frames, twisted over the tops of verandas, and trees were popping up in the very places trees were not meant to be at any sensible time of the year, indoors. At least they'd gone away from putting live candles on them, Crowley mused to himself. That was a fire hazard and a half. Spreading a bit of cheer in London during late Victorian times could have started the next great fire. Sadly, all the trees he happened to knock over, half not on purpose, they were just there and he was just tall. The candles hadn't been lit yet. So, unfortunate as a demon up to no good, but they said Christmas was the time for miracles for a reason. He wandered down the street to investigate the new looks. Aziraphale was working on something secret in the shop that insisted his presence be spent elsewhere for the day. Are you getting your angel a Christmas gift this year? Nina asked, looking over her shoulder from nailing another piece of holly to the front door of Coffee or Death. It was completely boarded in this stuff. Reaching for the handle was becoming a trap. Crowley paused. What was her insistence with him and Aziraphale? Probably just human nosiness, he suspected. No. Why? Well, it's what I would do. Well, as you said, he's an angel. I wouldn't know what to get him. Crowley looked away down the street. Well, something nice is a good place to start. She stepped back and checked the door. Good, got that last gap. Getting into the spirit quite a bit, are we? It's not a crime to like Christmas, you know. I think he'd like something. Skinny Latte says how nice he is. Do you know that he let her off scot-free on 8 months' rent for her record shop? He must be rolling in it. Is that why you don't want to get him something? Not sure what to get someone who has everything? Aziraphale did like things. He could get a thing. He could get him a thing. But what does a demon get an angel that won't be seen some kind of manipulation or temptation? Aziraphale wouldn't have it. He'd offered to come and stay in the shop during lockdown. He was rather certain on saying no to that. So if he could say no to Crowley, then nothing would satisfy. Or Crowley was just being too proud of himself as a gift. Crowley sighed. Well, what would you get him? Oh, I have no idea. She opened the back door to her shop, or opened the door to her shop, mastering the holly surrounded the handle without a prick, and looked back. But something's better than nothing on Christmas. Shows you care, don't you think? I do. She closed the door. He hesitated, then looked away, then turned on the spot. He walked across the road, cars stopping and honking at him as he reached Maggie's shop. Aziraphale liked her records. This seemed a perfect place to start. Entering, he noticed with a gaze around behind his shades no Christmas decorations. In fact, in here you could pretend it was still October. He walked up to the counter. Hey. Maggie looked up from a magazine. Hey, she said, her voice bland. She was depressed. He could tell that much. Can I ask a question? Go right ahead. Crowley hesitated again. He wanted to ask about Aziraphale's tastes. He could do that and leave Maggie to her somber moping and not ask what was wrong. He wasn't a nice person. That's what he should do. But it was Christmas, and she'd probably help him more if she was happy. Are you not a fan of the festive season? Believe me, I get it. Happiness and kindness and cheer. People going out of their way for each other. Blech. Maggie started crying. Oops. Right. He looked around. Do you want me to just go and leave you to it, or... She continued to politely sob behind a hand. He looked around some more, walked to the small frame of the shop where his eye caught something. An album, The Best of Queen. He quirked a smile and slipped it out, going to a record player with headphones at the rear of the shop. He put the record on, checked the back of its slip, and then got it to the right song while holding a headphone to his ear. He pulled out the plug and dropped the headphones to the floor as Don't Stop Me Now started to play. This always cheers me up, he said over the sound, returning to the counter. He leaned in on an elbow. Now you can sit here sad and in your lonesome, or you can help me find a gift for that nice man who let you off 8 months' rent. She looked up from her hand of tears. You're here for my landlord? I'm looking for something for him, sure. But what does one get for someone who has everything? What does he like about this place? Well, he likes the classicals mostly. Fantastic. Also, do you have any bebop handy? She straightened. Her emotional face turned to confusion. Come along now, we have records to find, Crowley insisted. She hurried around the bench, shaking off her pain. He followed her around at the shoulder as she pulled out record after record of bebop, saying encouragement, Keep 'em coming. After a minute and being sure she was more in control of her tears, he asked, So, what was the crying for? Customers that bad? No customers at all. They weren't sad tears. I was just so happy you came in. He blinked. Oh. Humans would constantly surprise him. Well, that is sad. He took the records from her hands, a giant stack, and hefted them onto the counter. You can look through and choose what you want, she called. He went through them and nodded to himself. As funny as this would be, we should put some classical in with these. I did think bebop was an odd choice. Let me look for you. I think I know just the one he will like. She went to the back room and then returned to behind the counter and placed it on the stack. So that and which bebop. Crowley folded his arms atop the stack and gave her a look through his glasses, brows raised. All of it. She stuttered. All of it? Someone said I should give my angel a Christmas present. What do you get someone who has everything? Something they don't want, of course. But if he doesn't like bebop, I get him so much of it. Because I like bebop. He'll pick out the classical, and I'll get to keep the rest. Bada bing, bada boom, everyone wins. Crowley straightened, slapping his hands together in satisfaction. Maggie started to smile as she put the prices through the cash register. You should put some Christmas decorations up, you know, Crowley said, peering around. Cheer the place up a bit. Oh, I can't. Why not? I gave it all to Nina. She said she likes Christmas. Crowley looked across the road to the absolutely covered shop there. I mean, you can keep a little Christmas for yourself. Oh, no, that too. But being the most Christmas-themed shop on the street makes her so happy. Crowley looked back and half smiled. I know someone like that. The end.
That was great. Another really wonderful, sweet, and funny. What are these things called? Fanfic. That's what it is. Great fanfic. Excellent reading, Mad Wendy. Thank you very much. We are going to move on to yet another carol. This is also a new one. This one was written and performed by me. It is called Bentley Wonderland, to the tune of Winter Wonderland.
Petrol's gone, but I'm ready. Radio's blasting Freddy. We're on our own side, let's go for a ride. Driving in a Bentley Wonderland. I'll avoid people walking while my demon is talking. I'll swoop and I'll swerve and hug every curve. Driving in a Bentley Wonderland. If I hit a witch, you shouldn't worry. I can carry her velocipede. And because you're probably in a hurry, the tartan rack will not affect my speed. And when things get too dire, I can drive while on fire. I'll help you survive the M25, driving in a Bentley Wonderland. I'll go over 90 in the city, faster if my angel needs me soon. I'll turn yellow 'cause he thinks it's pretty, and maybe even sing a different tune. If you ask me, I would stop right outside of the bookshop, or take my two clowns home to the South Downs, driving in a Bentley Wonderland. Driving in a Bentley Wonderland. Driving in a Bentley Wonderland.
That's so fun. I love the costume change from the black Bentley to the yellow Bentley when you're spinning. Gets me every time. So very fun. All right. I have a job to do. Let me do my job. I am going to show you more art. We have a little more nostalgic art. These were the submissions that we received for our 2023 holiday party. So 2 years ago, when we did this for the first time, this was the art that folks sent in. It's pretty amazing that we're still going 3 years later. So let's see. We had Bildad the Nutcracker, Cobbler and Midwife from Bombshell Shock. And this was a thrifted nutcracker that they just dressed up to be Bildad. 2 different versions of Bildad. We had Azira Kringle and Crefley by Always Tuesday. And I think that year we actually had 2 fanfics submitted where Aziraphale was playing Santa and Crowley was playing his elf. So it was quite an appropriate piece of artwork for that party. We had Merry Holiday by Kirstinea. A very sweet looking Aziraphale with just the tiniest little Crowley snake. Does he kind of look grumpy to be so small? I don't know. He looks like maybe he's a little grumpy to me. That would be appropriate for Crowley in any case. We have, this is 3 parts. This is Winter in Soho by Deva Taki. And this was an epic Lego creation of Wickber Street. I think they actually won some sort of award or prize for this later on after the holiday party. Or maybe it was shared out on, I don't remember.
They won it at our holiday party, and they own a little shop, a little toy store. The people that did, and this was something they'd made for a display for their window on their own, though. But they make all kinds of cool.
They
Lego
won
stuff.
at our holiday party, but there was something else afterwards. There was some other larger recognition they got for this, and I can't remember what it was. But I remember
can't either, but it.
Yeah, there was something. In any case, if you're able to zoom in, there is a lot of amazing detail in here. It's pretty extraordinary. There's another couple of the pictures. You can see the Bentley there in the corner, all the revelers, Aziraphale standing in the door of the bookshop. We've even got details on the rooftops, and of course Santa. So just very impressive work. We have Miracle a Mistletoe by Cute Quat Mango. I think at this time of year, everyone is trying to get Crowley and Aziraphale under the mistletoe, so that's quite appropriate. We have Ineffable Christmas by Eterna. And I have to point out, because Eterna is so known for her photorealistic painting, that this was digital photo manipulation. So I am guessing, and I think Eterna, if you're still in the audience, you can let us know. Maybe this was kind of early in your Good Omens art journey. It's like really, really throwbacky, really nostalgic. Back to when you were doing digital photo manipulation instead of just painting pictures that look so amazing they look like photos. We have South Downs Eventually by Bold and Bright, who is known as Jackson on our server. Looks just so cozy next to the fire, and looks like we got a record player up there and some books. And I'll Be Home for Christmas Crowley, Laura S. We've got a little mistletoe up there, just waiting for an angel to come along. This is also such a cozy picture. And Pillow Principality, who hasn't been around the server but in a while, but did the photo editing, I believe, on this. So that was a very pretty picture as well. All right, and I think that's it.
I love seeing all the throwback art. That's fun. All the new art, too. We just keep going. Our fandom never stops with the producing everything. Okay, so we're going to do our last carol before we have a 5-minute intermission. So this is all characters, which we did last year. It is done to the tune of Carol of the Bells. It is lyrics by Laura S., myself, and the rest of the server mods. Everyone really contributed a lot to that one. Singers, Blonde Cuddle Potato, Kamapuri, Carnival of Vanity, Laura S., Joe Madge, Madman D, myself, and Vavumi. So it's quite a big production. Enjoy!
Good omening, for them we sing, all characters, Crowley for sure, Aziraphale, and Muriel, there's Shepherd too, don't forget me, the answer boy, gave us the pub, Citizen Joe, Bill and Rose, Satanic nuns, Nick Offerman, Serapiel, and Wesley-Dale, Fuck Metatron, Eric's upon, Jemima's fault, zombies that rot, famine, pollution, war's no solution, with death they ride, the end is nigh. Merry, 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 merry Christmas, merry, 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 merry Christmas. Derek was proud, now spends not count. This is that rich man is the witch, Jim with the box, not even socks. Warlock is spoiled, Fur was spoiled, Estes he too, smells just like poo. Dead of the young, Josh keeps his tongue. Michael's a jerk, Justine at work, Jack sees in Rome, Pepper's a rope. Crowley can see, Zira and Dee on their own side. Everyone cried, Santa was smirk, Brown was a jerk, Adam and Doll, Leslie and Todd. Man can see through the mercies, Let's terrified for Boston right. Maggie, 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 Maggie Christmas, Maggie, 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 Maggie Christmas. Adam was rude, but he's alone, and at the money and Kazia, poor Mr. Brown, bookshop burned down, Ben
still learning to unmute myself. I'll never get over this, 2.5 years of live streaming and stuff later, and I'm still talking with hitting the unmute button. All right. So it is time to warm up our singing voices again. We're going to do one more carol, second half, kicking off the second half of our Christmas party. This is Crowley, the Red-Haired Demon, sung to the tune of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. This is one of our carols from last year. Honestly, it is potentially my favorite carol that we've ever made. I don't know why. I sing this like all year long. Written by Kamapuri, Laura S., and the server mods. The singers are Blonde Cuddle Potato, Kamapuri, Carnival of Vanity, Joe Madge, Laura S., Madman D, Sandaria, and Vavumi. And I didn't do this last year when I originally announced the song. I remember a big, huge special thank you to QTJ, who did the art for this on very short notice and made it just super special. So I hope you all enjoy this. Have fun.
You know Furfur and Aster and Lager and Dagon, Shaxton and Usher and Eric and Satan. But do you recall the least evil demon of all? Crowley the red-haired demon was a pretty decent guy, but if you ever said so, he'd call it a big fat lie. Aziraphale the angel thought that Crowley was tip-top, although he had to hide it. They hung out in his bookshop. Then one day the Metatron came with a latte, tried to tempt Aziraphale. This is where we change the tale. That's right, we're gonna fix it, like the fanfic writers do. They can write happy endings, so we're gonna do that too. Crowley strode over quickly, knocked the cup across the room, kicked Metatron in the rear, yeeting his ass to the moon. Then Crowley said, I love you, and Aziraphale replied, dearest, I love you also, gazing deep into his eyes. Then they shared a charming kiss, long and full of love. Crowley got down on one knee, angel, will you marry me? They bought a cozy cottage where they could live safe and sound, happily ever after, as in us in the sound downs.
I know it's not my time to talk again, but I'm sorry. I had to share. I don't know if anyone noticed. This is like a fun little internal of our own little fandom Easter egg. But QTJ, the piece of art where Crowley is knocking the coffee cup out of the Metatron's hand, is based on when Will Smith came up at the Oscars and knocked. It is. It's the exact same pose. If you look online, it's the exact same pose of Will Smith smacking Chris Rock, right? So that's just a fun Easter egg. I'll shut up again. Everybody have fun.
I did not know that. That's hilarious. Learning new things all the time. Oh my gosh. QTG did do awesome work with that artwork. It really takes that song to a whole other level. All right. We are doing something a little different this year. So for the second half of our program here, we have a longer fanfic that we will read in 5 parts with carols in between each part. So tuck in and get ready for a story time. This is A Piece of Cake and Other Lies by Comic Geekery, and part 1 will be read by Comic Geekery.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for listening to my fanfiction. I wrote this a few years ago. And it is a human AU set in during World War II. No matter what the community thought, Aziraphale wasn't a miracle worker. He tried. He tried so hard to keep smiling and serving the many people who depended on him. They called him an angel, praised his seemingly endless kindness. They joked that he didn't need sleep, as he often went to bed late and always woke up early. He was goodness personified as far as they were concerned, always giving and never asking for anything in return. But he wasn't an angel. He was just a baker, and he was completely exhausted. Marjorie wanted a wedding cake. She deserved one, of course. She'd finally won over old Shadwell, and these days she was practically glowing with happiness over her upcoming wedding. It wasn't just the nuptials she was looking forward to, though. She wanted a party. She wanted something that everyone in the neighborhood could actually look forward to. Something more tangible than a vague hope that things might become safe and normal again someday. Things had been hard for everyone since the war started, of course. In truth, Aziraphale would like to attend a party as much as anyone. But a cake. It was morning, and Aziraphale had been washing his hands. Now he was lightly banging his head against the mirror above the sink. Marjorie wanted a wedding cake. Everyone deserved a party. How could he have said no? But that didn't mean he had any idea how he was going to pull this off. Everything was being rationed now. Everything that was available at all, that was. Where was he supposed to get enough eggs for a wedding cake? Enough sugar? Flour was certainly out of the question. He'd have to make do with potatoes. Aziraphale sighed and glanced at his old but reliable pocket watch. It was nearly 4:30 in the morning. It was time to get to work. Again. It was always time to get to work, and never time to rest. Luckily, he knew his business well by this time. He could manage the preparations for the day while half asleep, which is what he wound up doing. That was probably why Aziraphale didn't notice the stranger on his floor until he tripped over him. Aziraphale yelped as he toppled down, desperately trying to land without ruining the tray of rolls he'd been carrying to the oven. The tray fell hard. Aziraphale fell harder. He landed on his side with his left arm taking most of his weight. It hurt, but not as much as seeing 3 of the still sticky uncooked rolls land on the bakery floor. Aziraphale groaned. He worked to keep his workspace clean, but a floor was still no place for food to be, or sleeping strangers for that matter. Aziraphale shook his head to gather his senses, then he glared at his intruder. Is it seriously morning already? The man on the floor clutched at his side where Aziraphale had tripped over him. He sounded surprisingly indignant. You're not very observant, are you? I'm going to have a bruise on my ribs for weeks. Aziraphale spluttered, opening and closing his mouth ineffectively. Finally, he managed words. Excuse you? Why should I have been looking for sleeping vagabonds in the safety of my shop? But the stranger was ignoring him. He stood slowly and stretched, showing off just how long and gangly he was. Probably one of the many left malnourished by the war. The man yawned and looked around, then frowned at one of the windows. Wait a minute. It's still dark out. Do you mean to tell me you ruined the only sleep I've gotten in days, and it isn't even morning? Wonderful. An entitled vagabond. Now that Aziraphale was fully awake and calmer, he felt he had a better grasp of the situation. This wasn't the first time his bakery had served as shelter to those in need. His unexpected guests usually had the decency to ask his permission first, though. Aziraphale rubbed absently at his wrist in annoyance, then quickly realized he had a far more pressing problem to deal with. His wrist felt fine, mostly, until he bent it a bit too far. Then, oh dear, that hurt quite a bit. He felt himself go pale. This was not good. He looked up at the man again with horror in his eyes. You menace! The man looked guarded now. No need to make a fuss. I'll be on my way in a moment. I didn't steal anything, if that's what you're worried about. Don't be ridiculous, Aziraphale huffed. I would have let you sleep in and sent you off with some fresh bread if you'd bothered to tell me you were here. But now you've made me break my wrist. He waved his injured arm in front of the stranger. I'm a baker. How am I supposed to do my job with one hand? Who's going to feed this town now? The man's eyebrows went high. What? You just fell over. Your wrist can't be broken. Surprisingly, he sounded even more panicked than Aziraphale had. I'll get someone to look at it. Does this town have a doctor? Aziraphale looked him up and down. The man was tall with bright red hair and a suit that had once been fashionable, now streaked with dirt and grime. Clearly, this was a man who had seen better days, now reduced to breaking and entering to sleep on a bakery's floor. It was hard not to make assumptions about a man like that in times like these. He had to be a draft dodger. Oh dear. Aziraphale closed his eyes and took a deep breath. He didn't have the energy for this. He'd just make this easy. Nurse Potts lives in the pink house 2 streets south. You can go wake her up if you really want to help. The man nodded, a bit more rapidly than was necessary, then retrieved his hat and rushed out the door, presumably never to return. Good riddance. Aziraphale had enough to worry about now without also being concerned about some pathetic coward who only cared about his own well-being while so many were suffering and... The man had looked so thin. Aziraphale felt a wave of guilt that he hadn't offered him some food for the road at least. Stupid. Aziraphale blinked rapidly. There was always something he overlooked, wasn't there? Something he failed at. For the next 20 minutes, Aziraphale dithered, trying to figure out what he should do next. He picked up the fallen dough and stared at it forlornly, not wanting to be wasteful, but also not wanting to serve his customers dirty food. He needed to put the dough in the oven, mix the next set of ingredients, even just move the latest shipment of potatoes to the back. It was no use. There was nothing he could do with only one hand. Soon he was just sitting and panicking. This town needed him, and he was failing them. He was so lost in his own head that he almost didn't hear the brief knock on his door before Marjorie and the stranger burst in. Marjorie was carrying her medical bag in one hand and dragging the man along behind her with the other. He looked rather overwhelmed. In other circumstances, it would have been funny. "I'm so sorry to keep you waiting, dearie," Marjorie said breathlessly. "Poor Mr. Crowley here had to practically break my door down to wake me up. Now, let's have a look at that wrist, shall we?" Mr. Crowley? Aziraphale glanced at the stranger, feeling vaguely mystified. The man had a name, or at least an alias, and he had actually gone for help. For Aziraphale. There was something about that was shifting something deep inside him. He couldn't stop staring at Mr. Crowley, even as he held his wrist out for Marjorie to examine. She was quick and thorough, soon pronouncing the wrist merely sprained and not broken. Still, she wrapped it in a brace and warned Aziraphale not to use that hand as much as he could help it while it healed. It wasn't as bad as Aziraphale had feared, but he still felt helpless. He stared forlornly at his bandaged wrist as Marjorie packed up her medical bag, then walked to the kitchen to make them all some tea. It was only then that Aziraphale noticed that Mr. Crowley was staring at him. Aziraphale sighed, and did his best to smile. "Thank you for fetching help, Mr. Crowley. That was very kind of you." Mr. Crowley made a face at the compliment. "Don't waste your time being polite. I'm the one who's put your livelihood at risk for the next few weeks. I'm surprised you haven't set loose the hellhounds on me yet." Aziraphale's lips twitched. "And I'm surprised you didn't just run away when I gave you the chance." There was a pause. Mr. Crowley raised his eyebrows, seeming to take Aziraphale in properly for the first time. "Are you really worried about being able to feed the town? Don't you have any assistants or apprentices?" Aziraphale looked down. "Not anymore. They left some time ago. Felt they had to fight for their country. You know how it is." Or maybe he didn't. He was probably a draft dodger after all. Still, it didn't seem polite to mention that part. "Right. Of course." Mr. Crowley sounded a bit bitter. Then his tone softened. "If you really don't have anyone else to help you, I could, if you don't mind. That is, I don't have much experience, but I'm a fast learner, and I can follow instructions when I have a mind to." He grimaced and ran a hand through his hair. "I can help, if you want me to stay." Life was always unpredictable during a war. That morning, Aziraphale had felt alone and useless. By the end of the day, his arm was in a sling, but he had a new companion and a burning drive to teach the poor man everything that could be shoved into his brain about running a bakery with rationing in effect. It was surprisingly fun. And that concludes part 1. This story will continue after our next song.
Thank you so much, Comic Geekery. That was really fabulous. And the next song is super fitting because it's perfect for a Aziraphale as a baker story. This one is a new song, My Favorite Christmas Things, to the tune of My Favorite Things, and this one was written and performed by Vavumi.
Peppermint candy canes hung on the holly, cinnamon licorice, all of the lollies, chocolate and walnuts on English toffee. These are a few of my favorite things. Früchte Noel, Panforte, Kristallin, mince pies and trifle and chapel bells tolling, gingerbread houses with crisp white icing. These are a few of my favorite things. Buttercream icing on sweet sugar cookies, taste every bit as good as they are looking. Fine old red wine sipped as carolers sing. These are a few of my favorite things. Bells up in heaven are unfair or mad. I simply remember my favorite things, and then I don't feel so bad. Peppermint candy canes hung on the holly, cinnamon licorice, all of the lollies, chocolate and walnuts on English. These are a few of my favorite things. Früchte Noel, Panforte, Kristallin, mince pies and trifle and chapel bells tolling, gingerbread houses with crisp white icing. These are a few of my favorite things. Buttercream icing on sweet sugar cookies, taste every bit as good as they are looking. Fine old red wine sipped as carolers sing. These are a few of my favorite things. When the angels up in heaven are unfair or mad, I simply remember my favorite things, and then I don't feel so bad.
Thank you for that song, Vavumi. That's very sweet and, wow, sweet. There you go. That was a pun. I didn't even plan it that way. That was very sweet. I should have just stood on that. Part 2 of our story will be read by Odeyan.
Crowley was going to die. It was almost funny. After all he had done to not wind up bleeding out on a muddy battlefield far from home, he was going to die of exhaustion in a warm and cozy bakery, executed by a well-intentioned angel. As a general rule, Crowley tried not to feel guilt. That was, after all, a sure way to be haunted by the many, many mistakes he'd made in life. But when he'd contributed to the situation that led to Aziraphale's injury, Crowley had felt a very primal panic. Without the local baker, how was the town going to get their bread? Was Crowley really going to run while literal traumatized children starved because of him? Crowley knew he wasn't a good man, but he wasn't that far gone either. So he offered to stick around for a bit until Aziraphale healed or a suitable substitute could be found. And Aziraphale had lit up like the dawn. Crowley didn't know if anyone had ever smiled at him like that before. It made his heart do a funny, jittery thing. Really, he should have known he was in trouble at that point. Now it had been a week of boiling endless potatoes, mixing, prepping ovens, carefully only using the exact number of eggs he absolutely had to, and treating butter like it was more precious than gold. The hours were long, and the work was exhausting for someone who wasn't used to it. Crowley had collapsed onto his cot early every night, immediately dead to the world. He was not particularly happy about it when a hand shook him awake shortly after he dived headfirst into his pillow one night. He may have actually growled. "No need for any of that, dear boy. I'll only keep you a moment, and then you're welcome to go back to sleep." Crowley grumbled again and turned his head to look at Aziraphale with narrowed eyes. Can this really not wait until tomorrow? You'd better not be here to tell me I missed some bit of cleaning or prep work. It's too late. You can't get me out of bed now. Would be a crime against humanity. Aziraphale snorted, but looked at him with surprising fondness. Actually, I'm here to avoid committing a crime against humanity. He held up an envelope. It's payday. Sorry, I forgot to get this to you earlier. Here's your pay for the week. My pay? Crowley blinked a few times, waking up a bit more. He sat up and took the envelope as though it might bite. Inside there was more money than Crowley had seen in months. He stared. Is this a weird joke? Are you going to take it all back in a second to pay for my room and board? He glanced at Aziraphale as the man made an odd huffing noise. He was holding a hand to his chest and looked quite affronted. Crowley, are you suggesting that I'm an unethical businessman? I assure you I would never stoop to robbing you of your hard-earned wages. Right. Crowley considered the money again. I just didn't think that was a paying gig. Aziraphale's expression softened. That's very kind of you. Crowley winced. But you have earned the money, and I can afford to pay it. Besides, I thought it might make things easier for both of us if I officially hire you. At that, Crowley raised an eyebrow. Maybe his wariness was making his brain sluggish, but he had a sense that Aziraphale was delicately alluding to something serious. Crowley just wasn't sure what. What do you mean? It's too late to be talking in riddles. It's 7 in the evening. Yeah, past my bedtime, so hurry up. Aziraphale chuckled dryly, and Crowley tried to ignore the little hop of happiness in his heart. All right, I suppose you deserve to know the truth, Aziraphale admitted. You see, there have been some people asking questions about you. They want to know who you are, why you're with me, why you aren't fighting in the war. Crowley inhaled deeply through his nose. Aziraphale looked down and away from him. He looked pained, though Crowley wasn't sure why. Crowley was the only one with the neck on the line, after all. So, what have you been telling them? The truth. Well, mostly, Aziraphale blushed. I've been telling them that you're my new temporary assistant. You happened to get here the day I injured myself. You've been very kind this week, and I didn't want to get you in trouble. I mean, well, I suppose I don't really know your story. You haven't said anything about where you came from. Here, Aziraphale glanced up at Crowley again, silently offering Crowley the chance to speak up and explain his mysterious past a bit. Crowley nodded in acknowledgement, but stayed silent. He was done trying to justify or explain himself. This Sonny Baker was welcome to judge him as much as everyone else. There was a quiet moment between them. Then Aziraphale nodded slightly back and went on explaining. Yes, I suppose it doesn't matter. We all know it's hell out there right now. Everyone has something out there, far from home, that they're terrified to lose. There's barely any telling the wives from the windows anymore. From the widows anymore. I suppose we're all just getting by however we can. This time Crowley raised both eyebrows, but Aziraphale suddenly turned like he was about to leave. You should sleep, he said. We have another busy day tomorrow. But I did want you to know that I may not be able to offer you quite the amount of protection I'd prefer. There are a number of locals who resent that I've been exempt from the draft. There have been, let's say, unpleasant incidents, and a few broken windows. They say I'm a coward for staying when so many sons and husbands are gone. Aziraphale was looking away again. His voice got quieter. I don't always disagree with them. Oh. Crowley blinked. It had been a long time since anyone had shown him a slice of vulnerability like this. It felt delicate and tender. Crowley was left feeling somehow both warm and hollow. He didn't know what to do with it. He was tongue-tied, and now Aziraphale was leaving through the doorway. Wait! Crowley cried. Immediately Aziraphale stopped and looked back at him. Just thanks for the pay and being kind and everything else. Crowley took a deep breath. He wanted to offer something in return. It felt important. For what it's worth, I know what cowardice looks like. It's not you. Cowards don't care about others like you do. Aziraphale blinked in surprise, then smiled. It was a small smile. It was easy to see that he didn't fully believe Crowley, but Aziraphale seemed grateful all the same. It made Crowley feel warmer inside just to look at him. Okay, another song break.
Thanks so much, Odean. That was really great. Next up, we're going to have A Dose of Angst with another new song. This one was written and performed by me. It is called Please Come Home for Armageddon, and it's to the tune of Please Come Home for Christmas.
Horns will be sounding the final tone. Oh, what a Christmas to stand alone. My angel's gone, I've lost my friend, and the world's ending once again. Armies of angels can't wait to slay. Demon legions stand in array. Please come home for Christmas. Please come home for Christmas. If not for Christmas, by Judgment Day, dead will be rising, earth vaporizing. There'll be no stars up above. One final Christmas, oh Christmas, my dear, the time of year to help save the things you love. So won't you come home to Bentley and me? I'll chug some coffee, you'll sip your tea. We'll stop Armageddon just like before, and we'll share happy Christmas evermore. Ooh, we'll stop Armageddon just like before, and we'll share happy Christmas evermore.
Thank you, Kat, for breaking our hearts. I also do love that purple Luke. Part 3 of our story will be read by Comic Geekery.
Yes, I also loved that song, especially the part where the ukulele played the guitar solo. Oh, that was delightful. All right, part 3. The next day there was a blizzard. It was a bit early in the season for it, as Aziraphale wasn't ready. He woke even earlier than usual in the cold and scrambled through his room to dig out his warmest layers. He was halfway into his thickest jumper when a thought gave him a fresh chill from within. Crowley! Aziraphale exclaimed in horror and rushed downstairs. Crowley had been sleeping in a cot in the kitchen. During the day, the area was usually pleasantly warm from the oven and constant activity. However, Aziraphale knew all too well how cold things could get there by morning, especially on days like this. Sure enough, when he arrived in the kitchen, he immediately saw Crowley curled up entirely under a blanket that seemed all too thin. He was clearly shivering. "Oh, my poor dear," Aziraphale whispered. He hurried to Crowley's side. "Crowley, are you all right? Are you awake?" He pulled the blanket down from Crowley's head. Crowley continued to shake, but soon opened his eyes, blinking a few times before focusing on Aziraphale's worried face. Is there an angel here to collect me? And here I wasn't even selling matches. Aziraphale's brow crinkled further. Was Crowley delirious from the cold? Did he need medical help? Then Crowley smiled weakly. Wait, is it time to get up finally? Thanks, someone. Hurry up, let's get the bloody oven up to temp already. All right, so at least Crowley was sounding coherent now. Aziraphale gave a small sigh of relief and watched as Crowley slowly sat up, keeping his blanket tightly wrapped around him. Don't be absurd, my dear boy, Aziraphale said sternly. Our first order of business is most certainly to get you warmed up. Come upstairs, I'll prepare you a hot water bottle and a pot of tea for the both of us. Crowley moved slowly but didn't protest. Aziraphale suspected he wouldn't have the energy to argue even if he'd wanted to. Why had the poor man stayed downstairs all night shivering to death? Did Crowley think Aziraphale would be cross with him for going upstairs? For seeking warmth? Life? Aziraphale realized with a sudden guilty clarity that he had not once invited Crowley up to his living space in the week Crowley had been living in the bakery. Partly, Aziraphale had felt self-conscious of the many messes around his home, but it had also felt wise to maintain some form of boundaries. Now it all just seemed unbearably rude. The obvious place to put Crowley was directly in Aziraphale's bed. The blankets were even likely to still be warm. Aziraphale had gotten out of them so recently. It was absurd, but Aziraphale couldn't help blushing at the salacious idea of having a handsome man in his bed. It had certainly been a while since that had happened. Aziraphale wondered if Crowley had heard the rumors about him in town yet. Would Crowley feel uncomfortable getting into the bed of a man attracted to other men? Aziraphale needn't have worried. As soon as he brought Crowley into the bedroom, Crowley dived under the covers without a second thought. Apparently, he was well past the point of caring about propriety. Then Crowley began shivering again, even under 3 thick blankets. Oh dear, Aziraphale said with a fresh wave of worry. Oh, Crowley, I'm so sorry I let things get this bad. I'll heat up that water right away. He turned to leave, but Crowley cried out sharply after him. No. What? Crowley peeked a single eye out from beneath the covers. Was he glaring? Was he angry? Body heat, he said in a clipped tone. Cuddles, now. There was a shaky breath. Please. It was the please that got to Aziraphale. He had always been like putty when people pleaded with him for things. He hurried back to Crowley's side, just hoping he was doing something right for a change. And that's the end of part 3. Let's have another song.
All right, thank you again to Comic Geekery. It's kind of getting exciting with this only one bed here. So our next song is called O Little Town of Edinburgh, and it's to the tune of O Little Town of Bethlehem, written and performed by Madman D.
O little town of Edinburgh, what secrets doth ye hold? You captured hearts of angels and demons of old. The jukebox changed the record, it now plays every day. Yes, every song turns into this, to the barkeep's dismay. The mysteries of your past have wizened angels' hearts, and what began a tragedy may play a crucial part. 'Twas fear and desperation that drove poor Elspeth bold. Their family, their only love, was starving, freezing cold. So 'neath the cover of darkness they crept towards the grave. Desperate times, oh desperate days, but who'll be left to save? Oh, little town of secrets, humanity stays engaged. Each generation drives on, yet thy streets hardly aged.
So beautiful. And I'm always so impressed that that is just a cappella, and you have such a beautiful voice, Madman. So let's hear more of that voice. Madman will be reading part 4 of our story.
Thank you. I'm excited to continue reading this because it is becoming quite the engaging affair, so to speak. So I'm a little nervous about reading back through this now that I get a little more context. Anyway, let's dive right in. All right. Part 4. Crowley was used to hard nights by now. Still, he had been concerned about the coming winter. It was too easy to die on the streets in weather like that. When the kitchen's temperature had begun to drop, Crowley had curled up as best he could and prayed for morning. He couldn't risk anything else. What if the nice baker kicked him out, like an angel casting Crowley from heaven? What if Crowley had already used up all his second chances? He was cold, but he was still inside. He could survive this. He would survive. The next thing Crowley was really aware of was the sensation of being warm and comfortable. He knew those things didn't belong in his life anymore, but he chased the sensations like a dream anyway. His nose nuzzled against something soft, something that smelled good and human. Slowly, Crowley blinked back to awareness. He was in a bed. Aziraphale had found him shivering, brought him upstairs. Crowley remembered passing overcrowded bookcases on the way. Then more memories slotted into place. He recalled a rather embarrassing demand. He hadn't meant anything by it, of course. Of course he hadn't. Crowley had been out of his mind with cold. He'd have constricted himself around a hot rock. Admittedly, this was a lot nicer, but, well, Crowley wasn't sure how he could get out of this entanglement without a very awkward conversation or two. He slowly moved his leg off Aziraphale, hoping against hope that the kind baker he'd been crushing himself against was asleep and unaware. "Crowley, are you awake?" Aziraphale asked softly, but without a hint of sleepiness. He froze. Oh good. Aziraphale quickly climbed out of the bed, leaving Crowley feeling strangely bereft. "I didn't want to leave you alone while you were still warming up. However, I'm afraid I really must run to the loo. I'll be back in a moment." Crowley blinked as Aziraphale hurried from the room. All right, well, that could have gone worse. Crowley was warm and alive and better rested than he had been in weeks. Now he just had to... Wait, why was the room so bright? There was daylight streaming in around the curtains. Strong daylight. Crowley's stomach plummeted, and he quickly turned to the clock on the nightstand. He had been asleep and aggressively cuddling his host for hours. The bakery was hopelessly behind schedule. Crowley practically jumped out of the bed with a bone-deep terror and a desperate need to prove that he could still be useful. He needed to make sure that Aziraphale would let him stay. He didn't want to go. Not yet. He crashed into Aziraphale in the hall. They were both apparently in a great hurry to go in opposite directions. "Oof, sorry." "That's quite all right, my dear. I'm just glad to see you up and about. What do you say to a bit of brunch? Though I'm afraid you'll have to do most of the cooking. My wrist is getting better, a bit better, but, well..." Aziraphale wasn't looking at Crowley. Instead, he was focused on Crowley's left ear and blushing a lot more than one would generally would about asking someone to help cook. Crowley swallowed, feeling uncertain. "Shouldn't we be getting started with, the baking? I've already made us so late." Aziraphale looked surprised. My dear, I'm glad you're feeling better, but I'm certainly not going to expect you to work in the bakery today. You deserve a day to recover. Besides, I doubt many will be braving the outside as far as the shop today. It should be fine if we stay closed just this once. We'll get back on schedule tomorrow. That sounded good. That sounded good. Too good to be true, even. Crowley nodded, but watched Aziraphale carefully, waiting for the other shoe to drop. All right, then. In that case, brunch sounds like a good idea. The house was still freezing, so Aziraphale went to have a word with the furnace, while Crowley began cooking. A thick jumper pressed into his hands in the meantime. It smelled like Aziraphale. Despite Crowley's best efforts, that scent was starting to mean kindness to him too. A few minutes later, the radiator started making promising noises, and Aziraphale returned, looking pleased. Crowley smiled and plated their food. He liked their mealtimes. They felt almost homey. He didn't get much warning before Aziraphale frowned and looked away from him. About earlier. Crowley's cheeks immediately went as red as his hair. Fuck. So they weren't just going to pretend like it hadn't happened. Right. Time to do some damage control. Yes, of course. Thank you for letting me Thank you for letting me warm up and get some rest. You didn't have to. I would have been just fine. Not that I'm ungrateful. I just don't want you thinking that I feel like I'm taking advantage of your kindness. Aziraphale blinked. Taking advantage? What on earth are you talking about? I want to apologize for leaving you to freeze last night. It's inexcusable. I knew winter was on its way and that my heating is touchy. I'm sorry that you had to suffer from my thoughtlessness. He bit his lip, still looking rather miserable. And I hope I didn't make you too uncomfortable while we were upstairs. Now Crowley was staring as Aziraphale went pink. Crowley was used to being on guard, jaded and cynical about the world, as a means of staying safe. Suddenly, though, it was impossible not to see the vulnerable truth in front of him. Aziraphale was just as he seemed to be. He was as warm and soft as the bread he baked, and the world hadn't been very kind to him either. Aziraphale, Crowley considered carefully. You know that you deserve good things, right? And that you're not a coward or cruel or thoughtless. And Aziraphale gave him a familiar, sad smile, clearly not believing him. Fine, he could be more direct if he had to. So you fancy blokes, don't you? Aziraphale immediately choked on his sip of tea. Well, what? Crowley shrugged. It's fairly obvious. Makes a few comments folks have made make more sense, too. I'm guessing it's one of the things that people have been ugly with you about over the years. Maybe even made you hate yourself? He continued gently. I know you didn't mean anything lascivious this morning. Crowley flicked his eyes up to briefly meet Aziraphale's gaze squarely. I didn't either. He tried to emphasize some layers of meaning in the sentence. Aziraphale stared back at him in wonder, each of them communicating something complicated and delicate. So, Crowley said casually, it seems we have a day off. What would you like to do with it? Got some books to catch up on? Ah, well, Aziraphale sighed regretfully. That would be truly lovely. Unfortunately, I have a special assignment I've been putting off. I really should take this time to focus on it, though I'm not sure how much help that will be. What do you mean? It's about Marjorie Potts. Do you remember the nurse you fetched when I hurt my wrist? Crowley quirked an eyebrow. It seemed they were past explicitly blaming him for Aziraphale's sprained wrist now. I think I can recall the incident, if I stretch my memory. That earned him a rueful look, but Aziraphale continued. In any case, Marjorie has recently gotten engaged to old Mr. Shadwell. She asked me if I could make a cake for their wedding. Crowley raised both eyebrows at that. And you told her that's impossible, right? I mean, I've only been in this baking business for a week, but making any cake sounds like more than you could handle right now, even if you had both hands. Never mind a wedding cake. Does she actually want tiers and frosting? I know you're good with potatoes, Aziraphale, but they can only do so much. But Aziraphale winced and looked guilty, and it was easy to tell he had promised his friend the moon. It's just, times are so hard right now. The people of this town deserve one nice day, a party. One day where everything looks the way it's supposed to and they can all be happy for a change. You really are an angel, aren't you? Crowley smirked as Aziraphale blushed. I also think this is the reason you look so miserable and sleep-deprived when I got here. It's just not in you to tell people no, is it? Well, Don't worry, Angel. I think this is actually something I can help with. All right, let's pause for one more song before we hear the conclusion of the story.
Thank you so much,
You
Mad
did a great
Mandy. That
job.
was
Thank you.
great. End of the story is coming up soon, but first, our last song, which is an original work called Our World. This one has music written by Carnival of Vanity and lyrics by Laura S. Get your Kleenex out for this one.
Light begins to dim as darkness grows. Winter started to grow colder. You are not alone in all of this. Come rest your head on my shoulder. We have made a home in friendship here, a miracle of finding one another, strengthening the bonds day by day as we reach out to each other. So here's to our world, kindred spirits joined from far and wide. Here's to our world, where we're free to be on our side. Here's to our world, you are welcome simply as you are. Here's to our world, where you're home for the holidays and for all we're gathered here to celebrate, comforted by friendships new and older, nurtured by support and care and grace, a shared affections grown bolder. Time will show us what the new year brings. Come what may, we'll face it all together. Tears and laughter born from joy and strife will bear them in equal measure. So here's to our world, kindred spirits joined from far and wide. Here's to our world, where we're free to be on our side. Here's to our world, you are welcome simply as you are. Here's to our world, where you're home for the holidays and for always. Always at home.
I love that one. And it gets me every time. I always cry. So I'm glad that I don't need to read the next section of the story. Comic Geekery, I hope that your voice is ready. The conclusion.
I'll do my best. I admit that was, God, it got me. Why is it so sweet? Um, all right, so our final section. Here we go. A few hours later, Aziraphale was in his sitting room, attempting to enjoy the first real free time he'd had in weeks. He had a book open, an old favorite, but although his eyes were traveling the pages, he wasn't taking in a word. He was here because of Crowley. Crowley had insisted that Aziraphale enjoy himself this afternoon, ushered him upstairs, and then turned himself into a whirlwind of energy. That was what Aziraphale gathered from upstairs, at any rate. For a while now, he'd been listening to various mysterious and sometimes alarming noises coming from downstairs. There were bangs and swearing, and then a brief piece where Crowley moved outside to shovel, then disappeared for half an hour. At several points, Aziraphale could have sworn he even heard a saw cutting through something. He was trying not to think too hard about it. He was trying not to think too hard about several things, like the way Crowley had started to call him Angel, or the way they had looked at each other over brunch. If Aziraphale thought about them, he might be inclined to believe they meant something, and that seemed like a very dangerous idea indeed. It was nearly 5 o'clock when Crowley finally called up to him. "Oi, Angel, come down here. I have a surprise for you." Aziraphale bit his lip, but was still wiggled with anticipation. He was certainly quite curious by now. The first thing he noticed on the way down the stairs was an odd smell. It was the aroma of a newly built house, all sawdust and fresh paint. What on earth had his guest been up to? His eyes widened as he turned into the kitchen. It was an absolute mess, but thankfully a well-managed one. Old newspapers had been laid out on every surface, catching bits of wood, cardboard, and paint. Aziraphale didn't pay them much mind, though, because there was an honest-to-goodness 3-tiered wedding cake sitting on his counter. It was nothing short of a miracle. It's not real, obviously," Crowley said sheepishly from beside it. "But from what you were saying about things looking right for the wedding, I thought maybe this could be a good stand-in. It could make people feel a bit happier about it all." "Really?" Aziraphale blinked rapidly. "It's magnificent. How did you make it look so realistic?" "Yeah," Crowley shrugged and looked away. "I may have been a bit of an artist in a previous life. It's not important. I just heard this was something they were doing in London, and I thought I'd try my hand at it." Aziraphale considered Crowley. An artist? This man just seemed to be full of endless secrets and surprises. "Well, you've certainly lifted a burden from me. This will be perfect. I'm sure Marjorie will love it." And Crowley smiled like he hadn't been complimented in a long time, and wasn't sure what to do with it. Okay. Thanks." They spent the rest of the day together, cleaning up and laughing. Aziraphale hadn't felt so happy in years. Soon, though, it was time for them to get some sleep for another early day tomorrow. They both paused awkwardly over saying goodnight. "So I guess I'll head down to my cot," Crowley said with obvious reluctance. "I mean, you fixed the heater, so I should be fine tonight." This was the moment Aziraphale had been dreading. The moment where he had to be brave and take a chance. He had to take the risk that he was doing something right, this time for both of them. He gulped. "You don't have to. I mean, if you're not opposed, we've already proven there's more than enough space in my, room." Crowley looked just as nervous as Aziraphale felt. He prayed it was for the same reasons. "You want me to sleep in your bed? With you? Night? And as many nights as you'd like after that," Aziraphale said, blushing furiously. "To keep warm. It's only practical. I'm certainly not going to expect anything else of you. I wouldn't want to presume or make you feel pressured or—" He trailed off. Crowley was brushing his hand along Aziraphale's cheek. Crowley's gaze was dark and searching. What if I wanted you to presume? What if I wanted to do more than keep you warm? He took a slow step forward toward Aziraphale. They were breathing each other's air now. Aziraphale felt dizzy, desperately trying to think straight. Was this right? Was this safe? He barely knew anything about Crowley, and it didn't matter. Aziraphale had been alone far too long. Maybe he was being reckless, but he couldn't resist temptation any longer. He leaned forward and closed the final space between them. Aziraphale had forgotten how good it felt to kiss. Never mind kissing someone he genuinely liked. Crowley seemed out of practice too, but he more than made up for it with enthusiasm. Together, they stumbled toward Aziraphale's bed. It was good. So good. Every moment of it. Afterwards, they lay together, wrapped in each other's arms. Doubts started to worm their way back into Aziraphale's mind. He wanted this, more of this, so much it hurt. It scared him. He didn't know how to ask for things for himself. He didn't see himself as someone anyone else would choose. That whole day had been so perfect, but did that mean his heart would only be broken more in the end? It took him a while to notice that Crowley was being quiet, too. The air in the room was heavy with both their thoughts. Was he having fears? Regrets? Is something wrong, my dear? Aziraphale found the courage to ask. It took Crowley a moment to answer. He began to rub small circles on Aziraphale's back. There are things you don't know about me. I know. There are things you're better off not knowing, and some of them might make you regret being so kind to me. Aziraphale shifted from Crowley's chest and looked down and looked at the shadowy outline of his face. I'm afraid of a great many things in this world, Crowley. Being kind is never one of them. Don't you want to know my dark, mysterious past? Do you want me to know about it? No. Yes. Maybe someday. Not now. Then I'll wait for someday, my dear. Could take years, Crowley warned. Aziraphale ran his fingers through Crowley's hair. I'm not planning on going anywhere. Are you? Crowley drew in a sharp breath. It sounded like a noise of disbelief, maybe with a bit of hope. Angel, I'll be here for as long as you'll have me. Perhaps there's something about the frightening nature of war that puts things in perspective for people. It made certain choices easier to make, sometimes easier to commit to. Crowley and Aziraphale each suspected they were in love by the end of their first week together. They both admitted as much within a month, breathless and holding each other tight. Marjorie's wedding with Mr. Shadwell was a delightful splash of light and color that winter, with everyone still in town attending. There was music and laughter, and the town bakers were heartily encouraged to stay up late into the night. Marjorie made a point of introducing Crowley to everyone and crediting him with her gorgeous cake. The amount of welcome he felt that day left him taking a break to wipe his eyes more than once. At one point, Aziraphale joined him, and they enjoyed a quiet dance together outside, surrounded by the glittering snow. A few weeks later, Aziraphale's wrist finished healing. There was a tense moment when Crowley asked if Aziraphale still wanted him to stay. Were their feelings actually real? Had Aziraphale meant all the things he'd said to Crowley in the dark? Or was it enough that Crowley had simply paid his debt? Aziraphale told him to stop being silly. I want you to stay. I'll always want you to stay. Maybe it's too soon to ask for forever, but I have no doubt it's what I want. Is it what you want too? When Crowley had to pick Aziraphale up and kiss him, he felt so filled with love. There were years after that, years with dark times and tragedy, but years where they both always had a reassuring hand to hold. The war finally ended. Some soldiers came home. Hope started to become less of a fool's dream. Aziraphale learned Crowley's story with time, in bits and pieces. Some things Crowley told him, others he guessed, and a few things were rather dramatically revealed, requiring a very hectic week to square away. He never once regretted being kind. Was, in many ways, a piece of cake. Yet. Thank you all for listening to my story.
All right, everybody. Okay, well, that was so sweet. Yeah, I love the Jeff there in chat is exactly right. Yes, teary-eyed, clapping and crying. That was very sweet. Thank you so much, everybody who took time to read it. I mean, everyone participated. That was fun. And thank you so much, Comic Geekery, for making time to come and read it for us. And yeah, write it and share it. It was beautiful.
I have the link. I'm so honored that people want to read it. Slight warning, it is just the tiniest bit spicier in the original version. I changed like 2 sentences, but if you don't want that more of a look into what they got up to, be aware.
I like it spicy. Yes, that's what they said. I like the spicy part.
Well, they couldn't spice the bread, so it had to go somewhere.
That's great. Okay, thank you, everybody. And I really want to say thank you to everyone who made this possible, everyone who showed up. Also, all of the people who submitted cosplay and art every single year that they've done it. And I'm so glad we were able to reshare that. I don't want to miss anybody here. The authors of the fanfics, all the members of the Chorus Men of the Apocalypse, which is getting to be quite a long list now, all the volunteers, everybody on stage who's helped out. I really do appreciate it. Kamapuri does so much behind the scenes to make, because she's keeping us all organized and making sure everybody's got their stuff in on time and writing all the announcements, and we appreciate everything she does there. Up next, we are going to do a replay of our new carol, our new group carol, Aziraphale, and then we will also do our very first group carol, which is the 12 Days of Good Omens. Thank you, everybody.
Aziraphale, Aziraphale, how lovely is your tartan. Aziraphale, Aziraphale, how lovely is your tartan. The subtle stripes in your bow ties bring out the colors in your eyes. Aziraphale, Aziraphale, how lovely is your tartan. Aziraphale, Aziraphale, how cozy is your waistcoat. Aziraphale, Aziraphale, how cozy is your waistcoat. The golden war, it holds you tight, a velvet comfort day and night. Aziraphale, Aziraphale, how cozy is your waistcoat. Aziraphale, Aziraphale, how dapper is your jacket. Aziraphale, Aziraphale, how is your jacket. A demon's breath will grant relief from stains that linger underneath. Aziraphale, Aziraphale, how dapper is your jacket. Aziraphale, Aziraphale, how tailored are your trousers. Aziraphale, Aziraphale, how tailored are your trousers. Their perfect fit doth emphasize the luscious curving of your thighs. Aziraphale, Aziraphale, how tailored are your trousers. On the first day of Christmas, Good Omens gave to me. This kiss lives in my mind rent-free. On the second day of Christmas, Christmas Good Omens gave to me 2 yellow eyes, and this kiss lives in my mind rent-free. On the 3rd day of Christmas, Good Omens gave to me 3 cowrie shells, 2 yellow eyes, and this kiss lives in my mind rent-free. On the 4th day of Christmas, Good Omens gave to me 4 Eccles cakes, 3 cowrie shells, 2 yellow eyes, and this kiss lives in my mind rent-free. On the 5th day of Christmas, Good Omens gave to me an obsession with nightingales. 4 Eccles cakes, 3 cowrie shells, 2 yellow eyes, and this kiss lives in my mind rent-free. On the 6th day of Christmas, Good Omens gave to me 6 shots of espresso, an obsession with nightingales. 4 Eccles cakes, 3 cowrie shells, 2 yellow eyes, and this kiss lives in my mind rent-free. On the 7th day of Christmas, Good Omens gave to me an apology dance for 7, 6 shots of espresso, an obsession with nightingales. 4 Eccles cakes, 3 cowrie shells, 2 yellow eyes, and this kiss lives in my mind rent-free. On the 8th day of Christmas, Good Omens gave to me 8 oxfords, an apology dance for 7, 6 shots of espresso, an obsession with nightingales. 4 Eccles cakes, 3 cowrie shells, 2 yellow eyes, and this kiss lives in my mind rent-free. On the 9th day of Christmas, Good Omens gave to me 9 best of Queen songs, 8 oxfords, an apology dance for 7, 6 shots of espresso, an obsession with nightingales. 4 Eccles cakes, 3 cowrie shells, 2 yellow eyes, and this kiss lives in my mind rent-free. On the 10th day of Christmas, Good Omens gave to me 10 merchants dancing, 9 best of Queen songs, 8 ox ribs, an apology dance for 7, 6 shots of espresso, an obsession with nightingales. 4 Eccles cakes, 3 cowrie shells, 2 yellow eyes, and this kiss lives in my mind rent-free. On the 11th day of Christmas, Good Omens gave to me 11 avocados, 10 merchants dancing, 9 best of Queen songs, 8 ox ribs, an apology dance for 7, 6 shots of espresso, obsession with nightingales. 4 Eccles cakes, 3 cowrie shells, 2 yellow eyes, and this kiss lives in my mind rent-free. On the 12th day of Christmas, Good Omens gave to me 12 travel sweets, 11 avocados, 10 merchants dancing, 9 best of Queen songs, 8 ox ribs, an apology dance for 7, 6 shots of espresso, an obsession with nightingales. 4 Eccles cakes, 3 cowrie shells, 2 yellow eyes, and this kiss lives in my mind rent-free.